You guys, it's week 2 of Disney Halloween dupes. Can you guess what we're making today? I'll just show you, okay? I'm just too excited. I can't stand it anymore. It's gone. We are making pumpkin macaroons. Let me read you what the foodie guide says about them. Okay, it says jack-o'-lantern, Mickey, pumpkin, macaroon. Or macaron if you're feeling fancy. Pumpkin macaron shell filled with caramel, buttercream, and pumpkin cheesecake. And this is available August 23rd through October 31st at Jolly Holiday Bakery Cafe over in Disneyland. So we mixed it up a little bit because I don't want to do the texture of caramel, buttercream, and pumpkin cheesecake. I don't want to do that. So we are doing a pumpkin cheesecake filling with a caramel sauce in the middle. It's delicious. So macaroons or macarons, however you want to say them, they can be intimidating at times to make. People have a lot of problems with them sometimes, but I believe in you. You've got this. There's 3 types of macarons. You can do Swiss, French, or crap, what's the third one? Okay, I know it now. It's Italian. So French, Swiss, or Italian macarons. We are making French macaroons today. I believe in you. I have taught many people how to make macaroons in person when I owned a bakery. So I'm super excited to teach you today and get you super excited for Halloween because, I mean, why not? It's just too much fun. So don't worry about pausing and writing down the instructions and all of that. The recipe card is linked below. So let's get into it. Let me give you a little bit of a disclaimer here. We do need some equipment this week. So you will need a stand mixer or a hand mixer. I'm gonna be honest, I've never made them with a hand mixer before, but I know it's possible. But Godspeed to you if you decide to go that route. And then you're also gonna need a food processor to blend up your almond flour and powdered sugar together so it's nice and fine and we don't get a bunch of bumpy lumpies in our macaroons. We don't want that. So mixer, processor. Let's get started. Okay, so let's get started with our macaroon shells. First, we need to source and weigh out our ingredients on our kitchen scale. Now this recipe, it's really important that you get a scale and weigh them out versus getting measuring scoops and doing it that way, because macaroons, you may have heard, they're a little bit annoying, they're a little bit finicky, and we want to give ourselves the best foundation, so we want to weigh our ingredients. Now I've gone ahead and weighed out my ingredients right here and I'm going to show them to you. So first we have 140 grams of almond flour. We have 130 grams of powdered sugar. We have 90 grams of granulated sugar. That's just regular white sugar. And then we have 100 grams of egg whites, and you'll see there's a powder in here, and that is 2 teaspoons of meringue powder. The meringue powder helps to stabilize our macaroons. And then we also have some orange food gel. This is a thick gel, not a runny liquid. We don't want to add any extra liquids to our macarons. So gel food color. We need to have some help from Glenda right here. This is Glenda. And then a food processor. He doesn't have a name, but that's okay. So go ahead, get your ingredients weighed out. I will link the ingredient card or the recipe card so that you don't have to worry about writing anything down, memorizing the recipe, I will have that link for you in the description. So run and grab that, get your stuff together, and then meet me over here at Glenda and we will get our macaroons going. Okay, to our stand mixer, we want to add our egg whites and 2 teaspoons of meringue powder. We'll scrape the bowl down, make sure we get all of that meringue powder. All right, we're gonna lift the bowl up. Now, the mixer's loud and obnoxious, so I think once we get started, I will do a voiceover over the noise. So if the audio changes, it is because we're going to voiceover mode. But let's get started with our egg whites. When you want to start it on low and let the meringue combine into the egg whites. If it's sticking anywhere in the bowl or on the whisk, that's totally normal. Just stop it and use your spatula to scrape it off the sides. So let's get that going. You'll want to start mixing your egg whites on low until your meringue powder starts to mix in with your egg whites. If it's clumpy, then you'll want to take your spatula and make sure you're scraping down your bowl so there aren't any chunks left in it. And then you can start gradually building up the speed. You'll want to mix the egg whites and the meringue on a medium speed, around a 6, until they start foaming up. And you can start adding your granulated sugar once you start seeing bubbles. Once your bubbles start forming, you want to take your granulated sugar and slowly add it in to your egg whites. You want to aim towards the middle of the bowl so that you don't have a lot of granulated sugar attached to the sides of your bowl. Once your granulated sugar is all poured in and starting to incorporate, you want to turn your speed all the way up to 10. And you don't want to bother it until your egg whites start to turn white. Once your egg whites become an opaque white color, you'll want to add your food gel. Now remember, we're not adding a liquid gel into our a liquid color into our egg whites. We want to use one of those thick gel colors. Now, I've started with about 4 drops of orange and mixed that in, but you can see now that I'm adding more, and that's because as your egg whites whip up, the more air that gets incorporated into them, the lighter the color is going to be. So while we don't want to add too much color because it can affect the integrity of the macaroon, we want to make sure that we have enough color in our batter, because as it whips, the color will lighten quite a bit, and you're going to be able to see that in this video. So I ended up doing about 8 drops of orange into the batter. I don't want to bore you too much here, so I cut out about 5 minutes of mixing on that high speed. And you can tell in the bowl, it looks a bit thicker. So we're going to check it now to see where we're at. So we're looking for something called stiff peaks. That is where, when you take your whisk out of your egg whites and you kind of put a dollop on the top, what shape does it make? Does the peak stand up tall or does it flop over? So as you can see, this one stands up tall, but it does have that flop on the edge. So I'm gonna keep going because I want an even higher peak. I want it to be nice and strong so that it can hold up our macaroon. So we're gonna put it back on the mixer on high again for a few more minutes, and then we'll check it. So now we've mixed it about 2 more minutes on high, and we're gonna check it again. Watch the egg whites when the bowl drops. They leave the whisk. That is kind of what we're looking for. We want it to stay heavy in the bottom of the bowl, or when you lift the tilt head, if you have a tilt head mixer, those egg whites need to stay in the bowl, and now they're nice and heavy and tough peaks. Okay, once we have our egg whites nice and whipped, we are going to go ahead and process our powdered sugar and our almond flour in our little food processor. So we're gonna open that up, and to that we're gonna add 140 grams of almond flour, and 130 grams of powdered sugar. And we're gonna put our lid on our processor, and we're going to process this until it's all nice and combined and we get all those clumps out. And once again, I'm gonna take the sound out because it's annoying. So let's do it. Alright, let's head back over to our table with our egg whites and we will get these combined. Okay, now we have our egg whites nice and whipped to stiff peaks, and we have our almond flour and powdered sugar finely processed. So first I'm going to take all of this that's on my whisk and get it off so that we're not wasting any of it. And then I'm gonna scrape around the bowl. Just like that. And we are going to take a sieve. Now, yes, the handle is broken on mine, but this is, I call her my lucky sieve. I tried to get a new one, as you can see, with a pretty handle, but then realized that the mesh was just way too fine. And so, I mean, I think it's just because this one didn't want to go. She's just in it for the long haul, so we will use her. If you don't have a sieve, it's not a huge deal. You just want to make sure that there are not any clumps in your flour mixture here because we don't want any clumpies in our macaroons. So we want to take about half of our dry ingredients and strain them into our egg whites, just like that. And then we want to do the macaronage, which is the act of folding our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients. Now, when we do this first macaronage, it doesn't have to be like super gentle, but we want to combine as much in the dry into the wet as we can on this first fold around, so that it makes it a little bit easier incorporating it all in. So let's get started. So we want to go scrape around the bowl and then towards the middle. Around the bowl, towards the middle. Now, if you've ever taken one of my in-person classes, I bet you remember it, because we're going to do this motion hundreds of times probably to get all of it combined. My first portion though, I'm not too worried about it. We don't want to pop too many of those little tiny air bubbles that has our egg whites nice and fluffy. But as you can see, it incorporates pretty quickly on this first go around, and that is what we want to happen. So once you can't see, oh hello, scrape the bowl down there. Now, once you can't see any powder and there's no like clumps of it anywhere inside, we want to go ahead and add the rest in. I'm going to take the blade out of this so it doesn't fall in. And then I'm going to add the rest of my dry ingredients into my sieve. You might have to knock the processor to get the little bits out, but we don't want to leave any in there. I'm just going to tap it on the counter. Alrighty, and we got all of them. So we're going to go ahead and sift. You see these big, well, you might not be able to, actually. Yeah, there we go. There's a clump there. If you don't have a sieve, you could press on it and it, you know, unclumps, but this is a great way to make sure that you're not getting any clumps in your batter. Okay, make sure you give your shoulders a nice big stretch because we are in this for the long haul. We are going to use our folding technique over and over and over again until we have some beautiful macaroon batter. We want to make sure that we are scraping. We want to make sure that if our spatula is super clumped up, that we scrape our spatula down and add it back in, go around in the middle. We're going to repeat this process until it's done. And I will teach you how to know when it's done. Don't worry, just keep on folding. Now once you get it all incorporated, you might be like, oh good, I'm done. But that is not true. We are looking for a specific texture of our batter, and this is way too thick, okay? So we want to keep folding. And what this is doing is it's popping little air bubbles every time we go around. And it's making our batter a little bit more runny every go around. See, it's getting a little bit more runny, but we're not there yet. This is where my arm starts to get sore. Getting closer, getting closer. Okay, so let me zoom this in just a little bit here. See if we can't see a bit better. Just a couple more folds, I think. So what we're looking for is a nice lava consistency. You want to be able to swirl it around nice and slowly without it breaking. But we don't want to mix it too much to where it becomes too runny, because then our macaroons' feet will not develop. So we have to find this happy medium of thick but not too thick, and thin but not too thin. But I think we found it about here. I've also found that putting it into your mixing bag and you're going to be piping with it and squeezing it, and so we want it to be a little bit too thick, then a little bit too runny, because we're going to be handling it and it's going to be popping some more air bubbles. So as you can see in the bowl, it starts to even itself out, and that's what we want. There's still some ribbons in it, and that's totally fine. We just don't want it to be like dropping clumps. We want it to be nice and smooth. So this is what we're looking for. And next we need to bag it up and pipe it on our template. So go ahead and grab your cookie sheets, your parchment paper, and your pumpkin template. That looks like this. You can find it in the link below, and I will meet you back here in just a second. Okay, so I have a cup to fill the piping bag easier. I've got my piping bag here, and I have a number 12. It's just a round tip, it's small. I think it's a number 1 tip that's big. You don't want that one. This is a 12. And it is perfect for our assignment here. So what I like to do is fold up the tip so that you don't get any leakage inside the bag, and then put my hand in the bag and then stick her down in the cup, and then fold the edge over just like that. Now I also have a bag tie right here. You don't have to have these, but they are super duper handy. I would 100% suggest them, but I mean, it's not a necessity, but they are very, very helpful. Keeps the back of your bag closed. And so I'm gonna take my batter and put it into our cup. And this bag's going to be pretty full. If you have smaller bags, you can do 2. Even if, maybe if you have this size bag, you can do 2 if you're nervous about it, because, I mean, it can get messy if you're not prepared for it. So I've got my bag filled here. I'm gonna move my bowl out of the way. And then I'm going to lift the edge of that bag. And then I'm gonna try and pinch the top together. And with my bag tie, I'm just gonna close that off by wrapping it around. And it's got this little hook on it that grabs it. So it is now closed and secure. So now we want to prep our pan. I've got another cookie sheet behind me because one's not going to be enough. I have my template here and a piece of parchment paper to lay down on top of it. Now, the parchment is gonna roll up and we don't want to add any stress to this piping situation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my bag and I'm gonna add just a little bit to the corners over here, just so we can pipe without everything rolling on us, because it's very frustrating. And is it gonna make your template have macaroon batter on it? Yeah, but that's okay, it's a piece of paper. So we wanna press down. Just like that. Keep it nice and flat. Okay, so I'm gonna move my template this way so we have space. Y'all just, if you're afraid of mess, then welcome to a nightmare, because baking is super messy. Okay, so we are now ready to pipe our macaroons. Are you so excited? So on Disney's website, the little edges in the middle of the pumpkin have a bit of a three-dimensional moment. Not too much though, because I guess they don't give their batter enough time to dry before they add the little middle piece. But that's quite all right. We will just do what we do here. Get that up off of there. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to pipe the outsides of the pumpkin, and we're not going to fill in the middle yet. We're going to give that just a few minutes to kind of dry before we add our middle piece in. Now, if that doesn't matter to you, if you don't care about like the dimensions, then you can go ahead and fill in the whole thing. But let me show you. Let me just see here how it's gonna work. Okay, so we're gonna take our bag. You wanna hold it at the back here. And we're going to make a little C. You're going to go straight up and down. You're gonna press and make a C. Just like that. And then you're gonna do the same thing on the outside. Press. And when you whip it back like I just did, what that does, it swings the tail backwards so there's no sticking up tails. So let's see if I can get you a little bit closer. So one more time, we are going to 90-degree angle, straight up and down. We're gonna squeeze just a bit. Boom. And boom, just like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill the rest of these in really quick. Okay, once you have all the pumpkins piped from the template, we're going to carefully reach in and pull your template down so that we can fit another row of pumpkins under here. If your pan doesn't give you enough room, then don't worry about it, because we don't want them to touch and they can spread a little bit. But if you have room, we want to add as many to a pan as we can. And then we're going to scoot the template over that way. We can add one more row. We want to make sure that we use our template so that they are around the same size, because we're going to use them for the fronts and the backs. We want them to be nice and as uniform as we can get them. Another thing to mention is that I'm not touching the pan with my piping tip. It's probably about a ½ inch up over the pan. We want our macaroons to be nice and puffy, three-dimensional. We don't want them to be smushed down, because then the batter's just not distributed correctly and they don't want to bake the right way. Okay, so here is the outsides of all of our pumpkins. I'm gonna grab another cookie sheet and repeat the process, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have 2 sheets here, and we are gonna go ahead and pipe the middles of our pumpkins. Now, the drying process in macaroons is so important. It is crucial that you dry the shells, which just means letting them sit at room temperature. For them to actually rise and have feet, and I'll explain that once we get them baked. But if you're doing a design and want like kind of a 3D element to it, or different sections, you do one section or 2 sections. As long as they're not touching, you let them dry, and then you come through and do the other section. Now, on Disney's website for their foodie guide, the photo, which I will show here, the middle is not like super defined from the outside, so I'm not worried about it really. Well, I'm not worried about it at all, because I mean, it's a cookie, but we're gonna go ahead and add the middles. So I've got my piping bag, and you can see I didn't bring my template back over because it's just ovals in the middle of the little peanut shaped pieces. So I'm gonna wipe the tip off so that I don't have any that's dry, because we don't want any like clumpies in here, so we've got a nice clean bag. And we're just gonna do what we did last time, but we are gonna hold our bag about ½ inch off of the pan. We're gonna squeeze and let it fall out, and it's gonna make a circle. And then we're just gonna gently push our tip from side to side to make an oval. They're gonna be nice, good sized macaroons. I didn't think about having to have enough batter for the middles for some reason. So I'm gonna give you an accurate count of how many you can make once we get done with this, because I'm not gonna have enough to fill out every pumpkin shell we had, but that's quite all right. We've got plenty here. So I had at least enough to finish my first pan, which is awesome. And hey, we'll just have some peanut shaped macaroons for, you know, the rest of them. That's fine. Okay, so let's see. We've got 16 on this pan that are completely done, which would make 8 macaroons because we need 2, of course, for each sandwich. And then here, so you could probably make 12 sandwiches, so maybe 24 of the full pumpkins. Maybe 20, maybe shoot for 20 if you're doing this at home, so you don't run out. But anyways, after we have our middles done, we want to go ahead and pop the air bubbles. This is crucial as well. So how we do that is we take our pan, and I'm sorry, this might be loud, I might have to mute it for this part, but we want to bang the tray down 10 times on the counter, and then we're going to flip it, and then we're going to do it 10 more times. So these don't need to be nice gentle taps, these need to be like angry, get your frustrations out, so let's do that. Ten on this side, flip it, 10 on this side. Okay, so now we want to take a toothpick and pop any bubbles in our macaroons that we can see. Try and zoom in. Let's see if I can find, okay. So, where's my hand? There it is. There's an air bubble right here at the top. I'm just gonna poke it and let that air come out, and then I'm just gonna move my toothpick around just a little bit so that it can heal itself up. Now we wanna go around our whole pan and check for air bubbles. And hopefully banging it on the counter, what that does is basically bring up the air bubble so that we can go back through and pop it with our toothpick. And we're really just looking for like big air bubbles. You do not have to get every tiny little air bubble, but the big ones will cause the bubble to explode and the whole cookie will, it won't turn out. Okay, so as you can see, the middle is separate from the sides, which is super cute. That's what we want our little jack-o'-lantern to be like. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop the air bubbles in my second batch. And then, let me look at you in the eyeballs because this is important. Hello. We have to dry our macaroon shells, okay? They need to be left alone until you can touch the shell and it's not sticky, okay? Do not rush this. Do not think, oh, it's just a little bit sticky now, I bet it's okay. No, it's not okay, okay? I say this for you. Dry shells, okay? Because there will be no feet. They will all explode, not violently, but they won't come out well, okay? And then you're gonna be like, I should have left those to dry. I'm only telling you this out of personal experience, okay? So pop the bubbles and then put them somewhere else. And it can take a while to dry. It might take an hour, okay? Depending on the temperature and the moisture in the air. A lot of things go into it. I know at my bakery, when I used to have my bakery, the bad boys would dry in 10 minutes, okay? I don't know why. It was a beautiful moment in time, for my macaron shells. But here at my house, no baby. It takes a while. I'll let you know how long it takes when they're dry. But for you, might be different. If you live in a very dry climate, they might dry real fast, okay? So just put them somewhere where they're not gonna get hit on accident, knocked over on accident, whatever. And check them probably every 30 minutes or so. Very lightly tap the shells, and I will show you how to do that. But let's put those bad boys on the shelf right now and then walk away. Go do something else, okay? I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, it has been about 40 minutes since we finished piping our shells. So they have rested for 40 minutes and I checked and they are dry. Now, that could differ at your house. It depends, like I was saying earlier, on the weather and everything like that. So just continue to check, but what you are looking for is you want to be able to lightly touch your macaron shell, and you want it to be dry. You don't want any sticky left on your finger, okay? So those are nice and dry. So I have my oven preheated to 325, and I'm going to put these in the oven towards the top. You want it higher than the middle, okay? So that first like third, the top third of your oven, it's kind of where you want these bad boys to go. I'm going to start a timer for 5 minutes, and then I'm not going to peek. Do not open your oven in that 5 minutes, okay? And then we will flip them around. So go ahead, stick these in the oven for 5 minutes. Okay, our first 5 minutes is up. This is what they look like. That's a good sign. Okay, we're gonna flip the tray another 5 minutes, leave them alone. Okay, this is after 10 minutes, and you'll want to do the wiggle test to see if they are done, which you just gently touch the top and see if it wiggles. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but it is wiggling just a little bit. So I'm gonna flip them again. I'm gonna give them 2 minutes and then I'm gonna check again. Okay, it has been 2 more minutes. Okay, nice little filter or something. Okay, it's been 2 more minutes and I'm gonna wiggle test again. And they are not wiggly at all. So I'm going to put these on the cooling rack, and I'm not gonna bother them until they're nice and chilled. Warm. Woo! Room temperature. Okay, leave them alone until they're room temperature. All right. Okay, while our macarons are cooling, we're gonna go ahead and work on the little decorations for it. So I have a little piping bag in this cup, and I have melted some chocolate, like the dipping chocolate. Ironically, it comes in circles, but I had already melted them down for a different project, so I don't have any of the circles. So we're gonna make some, and we're gonna make some of the stems. So I'm gonna put some chocolate in the bag. You want to hold the back of the bag and spin it so that it's nice and secure in your hand. And then we're going to cut the tip of the bag. And you want to have a plate and a piece of parchment. Alright, I snipped the edge of the bag, and I'm going to hold my bag up just like we did when we piped the macarons, and squeeze the bag until I make a circle that's the size of the ears that I want. Once I have some ears, I'm gonna make some stems just by making a sort of rectangle shape. I'm gonna make the rectangles a couple of different widths and shapes just so I can find the one that I like the best when we fill our macaroons. It's gonna look something like this, and then I'm gonna put this in the fridge so the chocolate can harden. Okay, to make the filling, we're going to start with a can of pumpkin puree. That didn't... Yep, there we go. A 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. And a block of cream cheese. It's 8 ounces. Now we're gonna let that combine. Y'all, I made a comical amount of pumpkin cheesecake frosting, so please check the recipe card. And don't follow what I'm saying on here because, yeah, that was kind of funny. So I'll put the actual recipe on the card. Now that our macaroon shells have cooled, I took them off the tray and I just paired them up with like size and shaped cookies. So we have a nice pair. So when we look at these, we see these little spaces here on the cookie. These are called feet. And it is created from the air bubbles in the egg whites that we whipped up, and it creates that lift whenever they're baked. So that is how you know you have a successful macaroon. And it's nice and flat on the top and some beautiful feet. Now we're gonna go ahead and decorate our little jack-o'-lanterns before we fill them. So as you can see here, I've got 3 that I've already done. I've got a little jack-o'-lantern and maybe a little Jack Skellington and then maybe a little Mickey action. And I have this one. And I'm gonna take my edible ink marker. I think I got these on Amazon, but you can find them at Walmart in the cake decorating aisle. All it is a pen that has food coloring in it. So it's pretty nice. One side is fine tipped, and then the other side is this longer side. And this is the one we want to use because we don't want to press down hard on our shells. They're very delicate and they will break. So go crazy however you're feeling. If you need some help, you can Google jack-o'-lantern faces and take inspiration from what you see there. For this 4th one, I'm just gonna do a little jack-o'-lantern face, some triangles. Fill those in. And give it a little smile. Just like that, and then I'm gonna fill it in. And there you go, we've got a nice little jack-o'-lantern face. And then up here we have our little chocolates that we piped earlier for ears. So as you can see, you can turn them over and yeah, and it's nice and flat on one side. So this is the side that was facing up, and then this is the flat side. So when we fill in our macarons, we can put this side up, or you can put this side up, either one. Fill them in and they'll look like that, and they'll be all nice and cute. So I'm gonna go put the filling in a piping bag and I will be right back. Okay, got my filling right here, and I've got my caramel sauce that I'm gonna be using right here. Now I know the recipe on the foodie blog said caramel buttercream and pumpkin cheesecake. I don't want that personally together. I don't want to mix the cheesecake and the buttercream textures together. That's not my thing. So I'm just going to put a little caramel in the middle instead, and I think it'll be delicious. So I'm just going to take one of the backs and we're going to pipe around. You don't want it too close to the edge because you don't want it to squeeze off whenever you put the cookies back together. And we're gonna put a little caramel in the middle there. And we're gonna grab 2 ears. And a stem. A little right there to hold the stem for us. And then we're just going to sandwich that back together. And there it is, look how cute. All right, let's fill the rest of them. Look how cute. And if this isn't good enough for you, let these bad boys sit in the fridge overnight. Tomorrow, they're gonna be so much better, if that's even possible. Macarons the next day are even better because the filling kind of soaks into the cookie. It's delicious. Just trust me on that one. And that's it, you guys. Congratulations, you made macarons. I'm so proud of you. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and whether you're counting down to a trip or just wanting to celebrate Halloween, I hope you have a great time making these with friends or family. And if you decide that you want to catch Disney World in time for Halloween, it's not too late. Let me know. I would love to help you plan your trip. And even if you don't want to, come over and connect with me anyway. Say hey, or tag me in a picture if you've made these macarons. I'm so excited to see your creations, and I will see you guys next week for week 3 of Disney Halloween Dessert Dupes. I will see you then. Bye!